Hey, welcome in. As you're joining, go ahead and drop where you're tuning in from in the chat. I always love seeing how far our reach gets. We're both tuning in from the Midwest today, me and my special guest. So where are you tuning in from? If you are watching this on replay, go ahead and put that hashtag replay in the comments as well so we can circle back with you. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the inbox. If you are job searching right now, or even if you're not, chances are your messages are full of spammy recruiter DMs, sketchy job listing, and opportunities that just feel off. I feel like I get at least 2 texts a day. Hey, we've got a great opportunity for you. Make $10,000 a day. And I'm probably not the only one. Job seekers are constantly navigating noise, scams, and fear-based outreach, and it is exhausting. But the good news is not all recruiters are created equally. So today I'm bringing in someone. Let me bring him to the stage. Raúl, thank you for joining us today. Let me pop you on the other screen so I can put you on big. All right. You are the founder of a boutique recruitment firm specializing in manufacturing, construction, and engineering. Tell us a little bit about how you got started. What's your background?
Totally. Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I'm very excited to be here, Tegan, and be able to share some good stuff here with your audience, and hopefully some helpful things for individuals that are on the job search and be able to spot the counterfeit and go from there. So yeah, how I got started. I've been in recruiting now for over 20 years, and I've spent the first part of my career on the agency side. So hustling there, full desk. And then basically the last 10 years, I was on in-house on the corporate side. So I've seen both sides, being in-house with a couple different companies, as well as a couple different boutique firms. And I had the pleasure of being able to be kind of a founding member of a boutique talent firm in my early days. So, and then in recent years, I launched Rapido Talent, and
I've
been doing this.
Actually raps people.
Airway, Rapido, right? Yeah, there we go. So yeah, I've been doing this here for the last 5 years, and it's really been a lot of fun. And one of the unique things that we do is our subscription recruitment, and also we do contingent retained services, but really look to be that extension of a recruiting team with small, mid-sized, and large companies.
And that is not how all boutique recruitment agencies work. And I think that's part of what makes this process so stressful for job seekers.
Yes.
Is because all recruiters, even different recruiters for different companies, like a high volume tech recruiter at Microsoft is going to recruit completely different than an executive recruiter at Microsoft. And so there can be a little bit of confusion of, hey, what is what? So let's start things with, how can a candidate tell if someone is a legitimate recruiter? Because so often as recruiters, we're going to be sourcing talent, not just relying on applications. If I apply to a job and they respond, hey, and we got your application, let's set up some time to chat. Of course, that's going to feel a little bit more legit. But what if it's the recruiter reaching out? How do you know if the job is real or not, or if the recruiter is real or not, or if they're just trying to, eat your soul?
Totally. That's a great question. And what I would say in this day and age is, really, legit recruiters are going to have a digital presence, and they're going to be active. If you go to my LinkedIn profile, I'm posting daily on ideas regarding recruiting, how to help companies find the best talent. I'm posting memes, having fun as well. So the recruiter of today has an active digital appearance, through a variety of different social platforms. And probably the one that's most significant would be LinkedIn. So I think one quick way to kind of figure out whether someone is counterfeit or not is by actually just looking them up on LinkedIn and seeing that they're there. And also not just LinkedIn, but also verifying other social platforms and their activity there as well. So it's pretty nowadays with AI, it's pretty easy to know even in the comments when people are commenting on LinkedIn, and it's like, that's not a real person. That personality doesn't come through. So I would say that's probably one, looking at their digital blueprint and seeing, okay, do they have it? A lot of times when I get scammy messages, I look on LinkedIn, I look at someone's digital platform or digital blueprint, and I see that they don't have anything there sometimes, or if they do have something there, they haven't been active on it for years.
I think that's a great litmus test, and it can be done so quickly. I mean,
Yes.
just click on the person's LinkedIn URL at the bottom of the email or the message or something, and okay, is this person legit? Do they have any type of activity? Have they worked for legitimate companies and clearly have a professional background of being in the talent space? Okay, so that's quick and easy. There's also Google to see if an organization is real or not. But then once somebody does realize, okay, this is a real human being, then there's okay, are they talking about a real job, or are they scamming me? Are they just trying to collect my data? Because something that happened during COVID is so many search firms started to sell organizations talent data, what their comp was, or all where they're located, or what tenure looks like. There's so many different reports that organizations have to purchase now to be able to have access to this type of data. And people feel like they were having conversations that were misleading, thinking that they were getting excited about an opportunity that never came to fruition. Now, you and me both know that there are legitimate recruiters who do something called pipelining, which is where we're proactively finding talent that our clients are going to need, because they frequently need profiles like this. Like if I'm an engineering recruiter, I'm going to constantly have engineers in my pocket. I'm going to be building relationships with the talent. So when the opening does come up quickly, because on the agency side, it's time to fill is so critical. So walk me through your perspective, because people are tired of hearing what I have to say. And by the way, welcome to everyone who is tuning in. If you are just tuning in, I see new people have just recently joined. I've got Raúl here. We are talking about recruiting versus scamming, like what's real, what's not, how to suss it out. So
I'm ready. Yes. So what I would say is this, when it comes to figuring out what's legit, and how we work, our legit process here, too legit to quit. I want to start dancing because it's fun to dance on a Friday. Anyway, so our process, about 75% of the roles that we work on here at Rapido Talent are with companies and customers that are actually looking to court candidates and engage with talent that they don't need right now, but know that they'll need 6 to 12 months out. The first thing that I want to say to job seekers out there is, obviously things are moving at a pace that it's just unprecedented since post-COVID. Things have, we've heard the word pivot loads. I'm going to throw it in there again. It's such an overused word, but things can change on a dime. You're one moment you have a job, the next day you don't. One moment there's a company, and then 3 days later it's gone. I mean, things can happen so quickly in this day and age. So nothing is, the days of pensions and long tenures at organizations, that's a thing of the past. That's gone away. There's only very few companies that do that. So things are moving so fast these days. And when it comes to our process and what we are engaging companies on, we're telling companies, look, the war for talent is real. If you're not talking to talent today for what you need 6 to 12 months out, you're already behind. Yeah. So that's our process. And so we actually, it's not just that we do it, we're working with companies and their hiring teams, and they're part of that team that is actually courting candidates. So, we could have a project manager role for a construction company that we're working on that, they've got the bid, they won the bid, and it's work for 2026, and we're talking that talent today. So, so for us, we're, a lot of the roles that we're working on aren't positions that are posted. They're positions that will be coming available.
So for those of you who don't know, my husband, he just graduated with his master's, and he's supporting me with some things, but he's also deep into a general contracting practice. And one of the things that I didn't think about, because I just don't live in that world, is you win contracts so far ahead that you really have to be looking at that. Now, I work with a lot of tech leaders, marketing leaders, ops leaders, where it's like, okay, we need to let go of this person and we need someone ASAP to minimize disruption. Where in some of the places that you're, in some of the industries that you're playing in, it's so much easier to plan out for that reason. And you have to have that alignment. And gosh, look at the politics in the Midwest. If something stalls on a project, then project kickoffs start, and that can mess with timelines, which can really complicate the recruitment process and the courting process. So let's just zoom out a bit for a second. You're super plugged into what's happening in construction and manufacturing, especially across the Midwest. So everyone who's tuning in from the Midwest, Midwest is best. Everybody else who's not, welcome to the show. So what trends are you seeing right now? Like what roles, what trades, what specialties, what's highest in demand?
Totally. Yeah, I would say, I've been talking to a lot of GCs, and project managers and estimators are in demand, and unfortunately, with a lot of things that are going on with the economy, with new administration, the market has softened. And I think there was a lot of hopes that GCs had that this would be a strong year with the new administration, but things have, things take time. Right. So, things take time to roll out, so I think, and, obviously with tariffs and all that kind of stuff, that's kind of put it kind of just delayed things a bit. So I just talked to I've been talking to CEOs and CFOs of GCs, small, mid-size, and large, and they're finding that they're in a soft year. So a lot of the work that they've won, they're pushing off to 2026.
Yeah.
And, but the thing is, they're having a hard time finding project managers and estimators. Like, these are titles, they're like, well, we don't really need that right now, but we will need it. And I'm telling them, I'm like, well, guess who else is going to need it? Everyone else in the space is going to need it. So if you're not doing it today, you're in trouble. So yeah, I would say project managers, estimators, they are in demand right now. And, I think even more, what's incredible too about these titles is, a lot of GCs that I'm talking to right now, they're starting to think differently about these roles, and actually, typically speaking, they would like someone that have had hard construction background. They're actually scaling it back and saying, look, if there's a desire and if there is hunger to learn and grow in that space, and you have some transferability of skills, let's have a conversation. Let's explore people in different spaces, maybe not construction, that have that skill set in project management and estimating in different ways that can flow into this. So for those in the audience that maybe have those type of skills, know that construction is one of the leading industries in terms of employment right now. And, it's 1 and 2 with healthcare. So it's just a really good space. And because there is just such a shortage of this talent, experienced talent on the market, GCs are going to get creative, and they're looking at people with potential. So it's a really great time to explore that space.
People really sleep on manufacturing too. We have so much manufacturing in the Midwest, especially in the Chicagoland area, Milwaukee area as well. Are you in Milwaukee?
I'm actually in Kenosha, but 40
Okay,
minutes.
that's right.
Yeah,
I go to a
very
dog
close.
show every year in
Yeah,
Kenosha. But
yeah.
like there's so much manufacturing in the Midwest and people just don't think about it. Like I work with a lot of executives and they don't think about that industry per se, but they're
Mhm.
so fed up with technology companies and the constant layoffs where manufacturing companies you can go in and you can bring in a more innovative and next generation type of technology mindset and
Yes,
make freaking miracles happen for these organizations and the people who work for them. I've got a client who did hackathons to upskill the talent when they started putting generative AI and different machine learning capabilities into all of the products that they were going, so that way they could build better products. And a janitor ended up becoming a data and analyst, and I thought that was so freaking cool.
very cool.
And so people who haven't traditionally considered these industries, what you're saying is absolutely you can.
Yep, absolutely. I would say this is the time to do it. And I think, the next thing, obviously I kind of shared some context about, um, just the time that we're in and just the acceleration that's happened since COVID and what that's done in terms of creating opportunity. I think the other part of it is, going back to the topic of being able to identify the counterfeit. Recruiters can really help you understand and they have a pulse on the market. So if you are looking to get into a construction role in PM or estimation, build a relationship with the recruiter and they
Hey,
can
we
tell
know
you.
one.
Yeah, right here. Feel free to send me a LinkedIn invite. I'd be happy. I mean, we're a construction. Yeah, we do construction. So,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of other great companies out there that I can connect you with too, depending upon where you're at. We have a Midwest presence, but it is just an exciting time for that space.
So you also work with skilled trades and engineers. And one of the things that I would love to get your perspective on are what are some of the common mistakes outside of not building relationships with recruiters
Mm-hmm.
that you just touched on? What are some of the common mistakes that you see when talent is trying to get into a leadership role or a higher paying role? What are things that people aren't doing or things that they are doing that maybe is holding them back? Because as recruiters, um, well, we both own our own boutiques, so it's
Mm-hmm.
easy for us to be able to
Yeah.
give whatever kind of feedback we want to give. But when we've worked for other organizations, lots of times we were limited in the type of feedback we could provide to candidates. And that's infuriating to people. And that's part of why so many people think that they're being scammed because, oh, you've got a really interesting background and then you never hear back again. And it's like, well, if you thought I had an interesting background, then why'd you ghost me? Or you were just trying to get my resume and meet your quota or whatever. And so what are some of the mistakes that people make when trying to position themselves for some of these higher level roles and then they flop and it makes
Yeah.
it lose trust or credibility or whatever?
Yeah, totally. We've already kind of touched on the recruiter kind of being that litmus test, and being able to kind of be the guy that helps you identify the counterfeit in today's market. I think that's a big one. But I also think when you're engaging in the interview process as an engineering talent, um, you're going to start to get introduced to different players. Say you'll have like an introductory call with a recruiter. You build that relationship. All of a sudden, they're okay. You fit the criteria. You fit the profile, the ideal candidate profile that the company and the recruiter are looking for. That typically a recruiter will align with a hiring team on what is an ideal candidate profile. So you'll get scheduled for that next hiring manager screen or conversation. That could either be a virtual, that could be a coffee, a lunch, a phone call. And I think where a lot of engineering talent stop is they build the relationship with the recruiter, but they're not actually building relationships with the hiring team as well. And they're circling back with the recruiter, but they're not actually exchanging contact information with the hiring team. I think you're getting exposure and connection with these folks that are considering you for a role. And I think sometimes we can be so linear in that, okay, I'm working with a recruiter, that we forget that, holy cow, I have an opportunity. I've just met the engineering manager at so-and-so manufacturer. And how about we exchange contact information, and that's honestly, I'm not threatened by that as a recruiter. I think sometimes you can hear that, and your recruiters hear that, and they're like, wait, I want them to come back to me as the point of contact. But when I work with candidates in the hiring process, I'm encouraging them. I'm providing them mobile phone numbers of my hiring team and saying, hey, stay in touch. If there's questions that come up, ask those questions directly to the hiring team. Obviously, keep me in the loop, but let's you build that relationship beyond. I'm a bridge. I'm as a recruiter, I get you from point A to point B. But then it's for you to build those relationships with those hiring managers. And even if the opportunity doesn't turn around, guess what? You made a connection with someone that is in a great company that maybe in 3-4 years time moves on somewhere else, and you've already made an impression, right?
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't a fit for today, you never know where that relationship can take you 2-3 years down the line.
I love that that's the direction that you went with this question. For those of you tuning in, we don't really plan this out beforehand, so I don't really know what my guests are going to say. And I think it is a missed opportunity for people to just not stay in touch. I mean, you don't want to bombard a hiring leader after they've rejected you, but saying, hey, I'd love to keep the door open, and congratulate them when their team gets put on a new project or whatever, just to stay on that radar. Because every interview, every even pipelining conversation, networking conversation, informational interview conversation, you never know where it leads. That's why I love the saying, good people know good people.
That's right. That's right. I know I kind of got ahead. I put the horse before the cart there, in terms of the outcome being maybe a negative outcome with an opportunity. But I think, in terms of other things that could be things that hold people back from being successful, I think it just comes down to taking ownership. I think a lot of the times, we can, it's great to have a recruiter relationship, but I always tell candidates that I'm working with, look, do your homework. Yep. I'll provide you some links to the company. I'll send you LinkedIn profiles of who you'll be speaking with or who you will be speaking with throughout the process as you engage in this interview process. Nowadays, again, like, we can identify who's a counterfeit, who's a scammy recruiter by looking on LinkedIn. Well, guess what? You can look up these hiring managers, these people that you're going to be interviewing for on LinkedIn. So, and you can find out where they've been, what they've done. So you can have all this information and context going into those conversations. And so you're going to get a flavor for who they are and what they're looking for. Maybe some of them even post. You can comment on one of the posts in an interview. Hey, I saw that you posted about this new technology that you guys are launching. That's really exciting. We did something like that in my experience in connecting those dots. So I think it's very fundamental, but I think just doing your homework and owning it, having that, I tell job seekers that, you need to think like a CEO in these days, even if you are going to be an employee with the company, because things change so fast that you have to think long-term about work. You can't think short-term anymore. You have to really own that job search and own those relationships and think, you know what, I may get this job. I better start. This is my opportunity to put my best foot forward and really build relationships that not only will benefit me now, but 2-3 years down the line.
It's such a missed opportunity not to do the research. Because when you're not coming in prepared, there's somebody who's working with someone like me who's making sure that they are pristinely polished and prepared. And there is no freaking way to compete against somebody like that. You just can't. And this day and age with AI, the expectation is that you've been able to do super deep research, because now you can do that deep research in seconds.
Yes.
Seconds.
You got those tools.
All right. So a missed opportunity is maintaining relationships, not doing deep research, and not owning your job search like a CEO with thinking long term. One of the things that you hinted to kind of earlier on and just now is that there's uncertainty in this market. There's a lot of individuals who are in manufacturing, engineering, construction type of industries who feel like they're going to start at that company and retire with that company. And they maybe haven't had a resume in 20 years, never bothered getting on LinkedIn in 2005, 7, 8, 9, when it first started getting popular, and don't really have a presence. And so what would you say to someone who no LinkedIn, no resume, it's just always been their work has spoken for itself and they've always found things through referral? Does that still work in these industries now? Will these type of people still be able to get on your radar or the expectations of what your clients are looking for?
Yeah, that's a great question, Tegan. In the spaces that we work in, construction, manufacturing, engineering, I would say it's still a very kind of blue collar type of environment where people, very much appreciate that in-person connection.
Yeah.
And I would say that they
until dinner has been served.
right. And they really like phone calls.
Yeah.
I find more, I would say probably about 50%, about I want to say about 60 to 65% of my calls with talent in the space, are phone calls versus virtual. It's just easier, and that's totally fine. I like that personally, as well. So I think, I think referrals, that's still very much alive and well, I think, especially within this space. And also I would say beyond, cross industry, I think that's just you always want to be building relationships so that you can be referred, and be introduced to people. I think that's just a baseline for good networking and building relationships. So I would say that you don't necessarily need a LinkedIn presence, although I would greatly encourage you to have some kind of LinkedIn presence if you're in any of these industries. And just think of your LinkedIn as like that's your resume. Yeah, your little live, basically your living resume.
Rolodex.
Yes, right. So, put your experience on there. A lot of the times when I'm talking to candidates, they don't have a resume, and that's okay. And I'll make the introduction. We'll get to know each other, that kind of thing. So what I would say to folks is, again, and I mentioned it earlier already, is build a relationship with one or two great recruiters in the space and stay in touch with them. Talk to them a couple times a quarter, grab some lunch, find out what they're seeing in the market, find out what challenges they're seeing, what opportunities are they seeing. If they've been with a company, if that candidate or talent has been with a company for a really long time, I think it would behoove them not to do that in a time where things can shift and change and pivot in moments, in days and hours. So I think, I was just talking to a COO the other day who, I've talked to him probably once every couple months now, and he's landed the role, and we're able to just stay in touch, and he's telling me about how things are going. You build friendship with a recruiter, and and I told him, he asked questions about, so what's going on in the market? What's going on with this? And I'm able to tell him I'm the pulse on what's going on for him. So I think it goes back to that relationship with a recruiter. Have one or two recruiters that you're building a friendship with, that you like, you are in your space and can give you those insights.
And I think that's kind of a great backdoor. So like, even though I have a resume writing business, right? Mm-hmm. I help people work around recruiters a lot of times, but I also advocate for not just getting referrals directly to hiring leadership, but also with recruiters. And if I actually just completed a training over the weekend with my group program, about how if you have 3 to 5 solid relationships with relevant recruiters and they see you evolve over the years and understand your goals and needs, that's all that you really need. It's not like you're going to be keeping in touch with hundreds of people. You don't need that. And I hear David's frustration right now in this comment that he wished that the good recruiters would call this stuff out. And I think that we do. I don't think that we want to focus on that kind of negativity every day, but we very much so have conversations like this and roundtables like this, whether it be live or on posts, and have these conversations going to support job seekers. Because at the end of the day, we do want to create win-win situations. We're getting paid from our client. And so when we've got a recruiting hat on, we're thinking about, okay, what does our client need? But we're also thinking about the relationships that we're making with our candidates as well. And if you don't have a trusted source like that, I would encourage everyone to find one for all the reasons that you just said. All right, I know we're a minute over. Do you have time for one more question?
Absolutely. Happy
okay. So there are some very old school recruiting practices or more traditional recruiting models. At the very beginning, you said something really interesting, something about a subscription-based model. So explain how your firm works when it comes to working with clients. And if you're a candidate, of course, how would somebody get in touch with you? I'm gonna put you on this one.
No, for sure. Yeah. So again, here at Rapido, we do subscription recruiting, retained, and also contingent recruitment services. And our subscription model is very unique in that we really function as an extension of a company's recruiting team. And teams these days are running a lot leaner. So, as I mentioned already, about 75% of the roles that we're working on are roles that that are needed in 6 to 12 months time. And so we're building those communities of candidates and talent for future hires. So these hiring managers I'm working with are basically having conversations with prospective talent with an eye to hire them, maybe pulling some of those budgets forward to bring on people sooner than later. So, a lot of the times my approach with candidates I want what's best for them in landing a role. When I'm approaching them, I'm trying to almost convince them, maybe this isn't the best for you, because I want them, some of the folks that I'm working with are employed. Others maybe are juggling and looking at a couple different opportunities. So, for us, we're looking at the future. We're looking at future opportunities. We're also working on roles today that we need to fill. But I think that's basically what we do. And, for us, it's all about making sure that it's, my conversations start this way. A lot of the time I'm asking candidates, like, I'm trying to almost convince them, hey, maybe this, it sounds like you have some really great experience here. How about this area? How about maybe let's look into this area? Or, you know what, you sound like you're in a great role right now. Are you sure you want to explore this? And just really, I want what's best for them. Right. So, yeah, that's what we do. It's, we love doing it. We love partnering and kind of courting candidates, whether it's folks that are looking or folks that will be looking. We look to build those relationships with both those types of individuals, and with opportunities. Sometimes I talk to someone and they're not ready to make a move, or they're like, that's an interesting opportunity that they're hiring in 6 months' time. You know what? I'd be open to having a conversation with the hiring manager. And sometimes they pull those budgets forward and they hire that talent. Sometimes that hiring leader stays in touch with them and makes that hire, pulls the trigger later. So kind of shared a lot there, but that's how we work.
I love it. It's something new for people to consider. Yeah. And so if you are interested in exploring manufacturing, construction, or even engineering type of industry roles, especially if you're here in the Midwest, definitely reach out. It's what's your website?
Yes, totally. So you can, I would say, find me on LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn. You could just pull up Raúl Mendoza at Rapido Talent. and you'll find me there.
And I'm going to put all the links in the chat. So
yes.
if you're wanting to reach out, it will be there shortly.
Yes. So if you're looking for roles in these areas, I'd be happy to partner with you and help you. If you're a company that's looking for a great partner to help you find this talent, not only for today, for just-in-time hiring today, but also for the future, we're your people.
Boom. All right. Well, everyone who tuned in today, I hope you have a little bit more clarity on how quick and easy it is for you to spot scams. And while we can't control what those scammers are doing, we can control how we respond to it by protecting our identity, by having safeguards like asking for phone numbers and LinkedIn URLs and things like that to verify that the right person is calling, that it is a legit person, and so on and so forth. And now, even if you are not in manufacturing, construction, or engineering, now you know that maybe one day you could be, because those are industries that you can transfer into. So without further ado, I will see you guys next Friday, same time, different guest. Bye, everyone.
Good.